Hi, I'm Norman Perillo, a furniture designer maker at Perillo Design and a woodworking educator author at WoodSkills. And today I'd like to talk about a new portable tool case I'll be building over the next week or two. So I'll show you an upcoming image of the actual tool case, and it's a tool case that originates from a Yeung Chan design. I had taken a furniture-related course with Yeung Chan about exactly 20 years ago at a furniture making school, a local furniture making school, and I was completely in awe of this portable tool case he brought along from San Francisco, and he traveled with it to teach and had the tools he used the most in his hand tool woodworking. Hand planes, saws, chisels mostly, and some measuring and layout tools. So I was in awe of it, and I told myself I'd like to perhaps build one day, and that time has come. I'm going to be going through all the steps in my build, twin steps on building it, and I'll show the first part of the possibly three-part series. And I'll be talking about how I laid out the tools and how it's critical to lay out the tools for your own, the tools you have in your own hand tool woodworking, your own chisels, saws, because they all come with different lengths. Some handsaw lengths and chisel lengths have been standardized, but some manufacturers don't follow any conventions, so they have longer ones or shorter ones. It depends on what you use. I'm going to be using this portable tool case when I travel and give woodworking demonstrations and teach woodworking techniques, hand tool oriented woodworking techniques. I've assembled most of the tools that I'll be using. I'll have a couple of jigs to bring along too, but these are all the tools, the important tools that I use in my hand tool woodworking. So it's going to be an interesting build, and something I've wanted to build for almost 2 decades now. This is a book, one of Yeung Chan's, I think, his only books. So I actually have a signed copy here from that very same class in 2004 in Almont, Ontario, Canada, and it's something to Norman. I hope you like the idea of my book. Enjoy woodworking. Good luck with your tools. I appreciate coming to my class. So that's interesting. Now, what I did at the time is I took some rough dimensions of the exterior dimensions of the case, the depth, the two sides, the depth on both sides because they're actually different, the width and the length of it, but I had not taken some of the inner compartment dimensions of the dividers, but not everything. So I'm working by eye at the moment. I'm basing everything on a photograph or two and what I remember of the tool case. But the photograph is sufficient enough for me to work with, along with the dimensions I've just described. So it's going to be exciting for me. You'll see in the first part of this video that I already have everything laid out, and it's taken me almost a day or two to lay everything out to what I prefer in a layout. And it's also similarly based to what he had in his own portable tool case. I'll have some concerns about the weight, but I think he addressed it by making it structurally strong by using glues where you normally don't use glues. So I'm going to be implementing that criteria in the build. Along with that, it's mostly hand tools in there and layout tools. The second or third video we'll delve into the actual build itself after I've broken the wood down from a plank down to usable pieces, and I can work with the pieces, dimension them correctly, and create the exterior frame for the two sides of the portable tool case, and also start working on the dividers. So it's very critical that I get the dimensions right. Okay, so it begins to go in smoothly, so that's already a positive thing. And what I'll do is I'll put something at the other end, keep it up. And then once I feel comfortable with that, I'll hammer it in. Best to do this judiciously, slowly, and keep an eye out for any obstructions, and stop, and then work at that obstruction, mark it off with a pencil, and clean it out with a chisel. So this looks fine. It's perfect. I have the pins are proud with the surface about a 1/16 of an inch, which is fine. And let me measure it for square. And it's square now, so everything's fine. Very good job actually. I like the fact that the pins are proud. When you have cleaned it afterwards, it's a nice clean finish. So that seems to have worked out. I've done this 8 times, and I'll assemble both of the cases together now, and I'll do a short video on what they look like as they're assembled. I need to create grooves on for the back panel and for the lip and the rabbet on the top on each of the components. So I've gone ahead and assembled the 2 components of the tool case, the top, the narrower portion, and the bottom portion, and everything seems to line up. Now I haven't really compressed the tails or the dovetails. I haven't glued anything up because I need to create grooves for the back panels on both sides, and some rabbet and lip work at in the middle where they join, where the 2 cases halves join. So everything seems to be fine. There's again just adjusting to do. The dovetail seems to have worked out. Everything's square. I have measured the diagonals on both cases and together and lined them up. So everything's good so far. The back panel will be inset and glued to reinforce the cabinet because after all it holds considerable weight from the tools. The process of that would also ensure that the tool case halves are square. So I need to create rabbets along the edges of the back panel. This would be the back. So I've marked the insides on each of the halves. So this is it's going to be interesting getting to that point. I'm actually anxious to get this done so I can start working on the interior. So I'm using a skewed plane, a skew plow plane to create the grooves on each of the components. This is the 1/4 inch groove for the top and the bottom panels. I marked everything off and I'm set the fence. Bring this out a little. The nice part about the skewed plane is it handles interlocking grain and opposing grain very well. A little more work on this one. So I'll continue with the other boards. I have most of the boards here, and I have 2 more. So a total of 8 boards I need to do to create the inlet for the top and bottom panels on each of the halves of the tool case. So I'll continue with that. So I've gone ahead and dry fitting both the halves of the portable tool case. This is a narrower part obviously, and that's the wider part. So I've assembled them both, and actually just to check to see if how square they are and how they'll fit together. And this is an example of the dovetails. So it seems to go in very, very well. It's a little bit tight when I do the gluing of the frames. it's going to be hectic a little, because I need to bring the joints in before the glue expands the wood too much, because it's very tight, and I'm not gonna modify the dovetails now. They're tight, and that's the way they should be. So we're at this point now. So the next step for me is to actually set this up to glue, and I'll be gluing one at a time, and then confirming that they fit together well. And the most important part of this is to check for square. So I check along the diagonals and on both frames, the narrower and the wider frame, and that should do it. And then so I'll do this one first, the wider one, the bottom part of the portable tool case, and then I'll move on to this one, and then hopefully they remain square during while the glue is curing, so, and everything should be okay, and then I can continue with installing the back panels on both. And I'm looking forward to actually working on the interior is what I'm looking forward to, because I'm going to have fun with that, subdividing all the different compartments for the tools, and I just added another tool actually, so I look forward to that. All set up for gluing. So it's important when you're gluing to have everything ready. I probably don't need the clamps at all, but that's just a backup, just in case the glue expands the wood and I can't clamp everything together, I can't hammer everything together, the dovetails I should say. So I have everything ready. That's from experience. You can get into panic mode if things don't work out, because you only have literally a few minutes before the glue starts to set. Everything's ready. I've got a block here, so I'll go ahead with that, and hopefully measuring for square all along. Once that's done, I let it dry and cure for maybe a half day or a few hours before proceeding. I've completed the glue up of both frames, the upper narrower one and the bottom one, and I use this system to ensure that they're lined up, because they're actually glued separately. So I used one as the one I glued earlier, the bottom part, the wider part, as a basis for, because it's square, I used it to have the top part conform to it. And then I cleaned up the rabbets along the edge, and this is where the bottom and the top panels on either side will be housed. So I cleaned the corners up and done any leveling, but there was very little to get done, just aside from cleaning the corners up. So the next step is for me to cut the top and the bottom panels, 1/4 inch veneered birch ply, and glue them in carefully, methodically, using some good clamping on the corners or the edges, and then take it from there and then flip it over, and then I've got the completed, aside from some finishing, I have the completed cases, the top and the bottom case. So it's just a matter of I mean, it's not just a matter of the most important part is the inside, the divisions and the walnut. That's still in play. I'm going to be arranging that, because I've added one more tool or maybe two more tools to the mix. So this has taken me a while to get this right. Didn't want to damage anything. So I'll continue with that, and actually I'll separate them now. So I've marked everything up. I removed some markings because that was prior to glue up. So inside bottom, inside top. I'm in the process of clamping the back panels to each of the frames for the portable tool case. So this one's complete. I'm going to be adding some edging along here to protect the back, and it'll be the same black Limba strips I have from some veneering. And this is, I'm in the process of gluing this panel up now, so I use some cawls to ensure that the panel is uniformly glued to the inner rabbet, and I should be done in about an hour or so. Then I can start with a little bit of edging, and then once that's done, I can begin work on the interior. So you notice the dovetails, that's going to look good. Very, very strong cases so far. Very light, but very strong. I mean, not very light, but sufficiently light to accommodate all the tools. So I should be able to start work on the interiors soon, in the next part of the day or tomorrow. I'm applying some protective edging. All that, if you recall earlier, I had all the extra strips of veneer that I had resawn from the sides of the tool case. That came in handy because I'm applying some edging just behind the back panel to protect the back panel. Because I'll have straps to hold the two halves of the tool case together, and the straps will not rub against the back panels. Instead, rub against, so let's call it a rub strip. So it's sort of a protective frame around the back panel to protect it from wear. Just raise the sides a little. So instead of having deeper rabbets and cutting into the depth of the actual tool case, I decided to do it this way to further protect them. I mean, I had the extra wood, so it's exactly the same wood. I even matched some grain in the back. It's a little darker with some hardwood. I'm just completing this one now, and I start on the top part. Same process. It takes an hour or two to do this, to cut everything down and glue everything individually. I also wanted to mention the corners are mitered. I had a choice of doing butt joints or rabbet joints, but I decided on doing a mitered joint, so it just looks better all around. So I have long grain wrapping around the corners. That's interesting, and I use a shooting board considerably when I'm doing this. I can dial in the length of these strips, the backing strips, the edging, just perfectly. So we're down to a shaving or two. I can't say enough good things about shooting boards in an application like this. So I've completed installing the edging on one half of the wider bottom part of the portable tool case. So I had to methodically install each strip and clamp it to ensure that the miters fit. So everything's fine. So I'm just trimming. I left a little overhang on each of the strips, so I'm just trimming that with a block plane now. I use the actual case itself as a reference, and just to make sure I don't plane too much off. So. That's all done. So the back panel is now inset into the actual case itself. So I have that protective surface around the back panel that it protects it from when the case is in this orientation, or when it's strapped together with the top part of the case with straps. So I'm very happy with that. I'll work on the top part now, do the same thing. So please subscribe to my YouTube woodworking channel, where I share more of my woodworking techniques, my woodworking philosophy, my thoughts on woodworking, and all the challenges I've experienced, and I introduce some of the new forms of woodworking I've discovered. And also visit woodskills.com, where I have a good selection of my books, both in print and digital format, on woodworking, and all my online courses, and I also offer some woodworking plans. I have maintained a regular blog on what I've got going on in my workshop and in woodworking in general. So enjoy.